Okay, Cup. Welcome to the second third of this class. I'm going to give, so before the break, we went over this framework: ingest, probe, survey, and imagine, cycle, or loop, or whatever. Okay. Now, what I want to talk about today in this second third of the class is what I call EmergingTech starter kit. Okay, this is a deliberate misnomer. You can't start EmergingTech. You can't. Okay, you can start the startup. You can start your innovation. Emerging technology is the social phenomenon. Okay, it's something that results. Yes, it is technological in the origin, but at the end of the day, social process has to take over. Okay, has to take over. First of all, the Society of Scientists have to come to the conclusion, obviously, that the technology is valid. Anyway, so this is meant to be a deliberate misnomer. You can't start it, but the idea is, what does it take to start emerging technology, a piece of emerging technology? And this is going to be your second homework, but may not be assigned this week, maybe assigned next week. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. The idea is to identify a piece of technology and run through some kind of well, let's just call them checklists. See if they get to the stage where it's actually emerging technology or just some kind of pipe dreams. Okay, so this is kind of again, it's a framework for thinking about things, for studying things. It's almost a schema, but the reason I'm going to put it under framework is because it does actually give you enumerated list of items that you can anchor your analysis on. Okay, so there's actually two parts to this. Obviously, emerging tech. There's two parts. You have to get the tech going, and you have to get the tech to emerge. Right? Now, last time we talked already, right? In the schema, not last time, but the class before that, I believe, before we talk about that, we look at what do you mean? Definition of what does it mean by emerging? Okay, what does it mean by technology, right? And if you recall, technology is not a piece of know-how. Well, original meaning is actually a discourse, a treatise on the art. Okay, it's almost like the art has already happened. Okay, people are already making a sword out of steel. Okay, they're beating iron ore, they're smelting steel, they're pounding and making a sword, making armor. And so the technology is a treatise. How exactly does the metalsmith and ironsmith make this? And let's standardize them. Let's share the knowledge and say, okay, you need some kind of carbon additives to purify or whatever. Okay. So then once it becomes codified, then obviously it becomes a piece of know-how that you can learn from. Okay. But it has to start life as a treatise on the body of knowledge. Okay. And then it becomes a body of knowledge that collects. Okay. Collects. So you can think of anything that happens at first is fairly haphazard, okay, or happens in a lab of one guy, but eventually, as the scientific community comes to study, comes to settle on what does it mean for this mathematical function to be applied to this set of data, that sort of thing. Okay? And then it becomes a piece of technology. Right? So obviously, right away, you know that invention is not technology. Okay? Anyway, so that's from looking at the etymology website. Okay, so let's come back to today. Okay, so we're going to talk about two things. How do you get the tech going, and how do you get emerging going? Get the tech to emerge. Well, you can say that it has to pass through a series of hurdles, as it were. Okay, now I'm going to downplay this and just call it a checklist. Okay, obviously it's not just a checklist, but think of it as a checklist. Answer: does it pass science? Good invention? Does the engineering work? Is the innovation viable? Okay, it's a little bit like a checklist. Yes, no. Well, obviously it has. The reason you can call anything a tech, yeah, is because it has to pass science, right? If you write in your application essay, I want to invent a time traveling app. Okay, that can never be a technology because let's say, science now, right now anyway, the body of science right now doesn't allow you to time travel. Okay, so for example, a time travel app is not a tech. Okay, it's not doable. Forget doable. It's not real under the science we possess. Okay, so time travel. So this sounds like a silly little comment, but you have to realize that's a lot of that. I mean, and same thing with the engineering. Sometimes it's, you can't say, well, you can say something like, I have this device that communicates by Bluetooth. Okay, that's good. That's wireless. Okay, that's great. How about I'm going to invent an app that sends, that charges a battery by Bluetooth? Well, that's an entirely different story, right? Sending information versus sending energy, or, so the science has to pass. The invention has to be good. Okay, and this is something that is a big area of reflection. In the Western tradition, they call it, how to build a better mousetrap. Okay, and the reason I use this is because it's got a rich tradition in the West of discussing innovation. Okay, in fact, invention. The Western tradition of invention is very long. Okay, and to be honest, I have to be honest here that we don't have as rich an Asian or Thai tradition of invention. Okay, not when it comes to mechanical system. Okay, because we don't have a tinkering space. If you go to a typical, say, farmhouse, right? There'll be an area for kitchen, right? That area for kitchen, you can think of it as a make space for food, right? So that's why, you can see that Thai food is the world's #1 cuisine, right? Innovative, good, nutritious, even, right? So there's like a little make space in everybody's house, right? It's called the kitchen. But it's very hard to find a shed, right? It's very hard to find a shed. Well, a shed, if you put a table in the middle of it, it's a little bit like a make lab for mechanical tools, right? We tend to not have that. It's not in our heritage to tinker with tools. Okay, so that's the nature of invention. That's the history of invention. That's it, you're in this room here that Basai is going to build, you know, sponsored by BOL. This is online. It's going to be like a BOL/Basai Applied Digital Intelligence Lab, but basically a make lab. Okay, for robotics or maybe a little bit of wet lab stuff, maybe the creative photo, studio, video, whatever, right? Prototyping, 3D printing, 3D scanning. So we try to make this thing happen. It's the tradition of tinkering. Okay, and that, by the way, is not easy to turn into a class. You can't teach tinkering. Okay, so that's why we're trying to build an environment of tinkering here. Okay, so invention. Well, let's look at the word invention. I like to do this. Invent. Okay. The first thing is to find and discover. Okay, that would be like inventing a formula. You find that it works or something like that. It has this sense of uncovering. It's a hidden thing that you never compare. It's a bit like chemistry. You have this thing, you have that thing, you never put them together, but when you put them together, boom, it makes a blue cloud. Wow, that's excellent, that's pretty. Okay, so it's tinkering, it's putting things together, but the essence of it is you find out something new. Okay, then the second sense of meaning, and this is where we get to the more modern meaning. It's not putting A and B and wow, I found out something. It's literally trying to put A, B, and C in such a way that does something you want, right? So it's not putting chemical A and chemical B and poof, this covers a blue cloud and wow, excellent, that's pretty. No, it's more like I'm gonna make a better mousetrap. And I have a shed. My shed has some metal slings, some springs, some net, some metal grate, some hinges, ropes, right? I'm not just sort of like throwing them sort of, wow, and I discover it's good. Okay, I'm literally trying to engineer myself into a solution, engineer the thing into a solution. So this invention it's a lot more goal-oriented now, not goal-oriented. Okay, and okay, invention is like the kernel or the seed of innovation, but it's not innovation. Remember, you in school of integrated innovation. Okay, you're not in the school of integrated invention or okay. So this maker lab that I'm trying to make happen with the Danbo and okay, it's that creating that culture of tinkering, inventing. Okay, but it's not quite innovation. Okay, but it's the kernel of it, the seed. It's a seed, starting seed. Okay. Now, engineering. Well, engineering is the application of scientific principle. Okay, but it is realizable. Well, scientific principles say you can take a lever, right? Take a lever and put a fulcrum here, and you can have something small, which is something very large. That's a lever, right? Well, to make this engineering realized, to engineer this into a real tools for lifting stuff. Okay, imagine, right? You learn this fulcrum thing, right? And you want to say, well, let's make this into a lift for taking a person from the first floor to the second floor. Okay, is that viable? Is that doable? Right? Well, obviously, the scientific principle is if you have a rigid beam, Okay, so in order to have something the size of a building, you have to have a rigid beam that is, 300 meters long or something like that. Okay, so that cannot be engineered within the current state of material science, right? And you can say, well, we can make some kind of carbon nanotube matrix, but that's not going to be viable, is it? Right? So this engineering is what gets you. Okay. Sometimes you get stopped at science. Sometimes you can get stopped at invention because you haven't invented anything that's new to the market. And the engineering. Now, engineering has two parts. And this is one part is to get it to work. For example, like saying creating this beam that lifts the person from the first floor to the second floor. I have to get it to work. I don't care how this thing is made. It has to work. Just get it to work. And this is the prototyping thing. Okay, in say military contract, say United States would commission, okay, a defense aerospace company to build a prototype airplane. Okay, so it would be something like YF or something, fighter, but they're designated with a Y. So that's a prototype. It doesn't matter if it's handmade. I don't care, right? But as long as it flies, it proves the concept. Yeah, it's an aircraft that can take off within a short space, but go to Mach 2.5. I don't know. Okay, and carry payload of 3,000 tons, 3,000 pounds. And then the second part is the engineering, the production. Now, sometimes you get the first, but you don't get to the second. Okay, so it's not making the thing a thing; it's making it as a production. So making it buildable. In this case, like manufacturing, production. So I should use it, making it manufacturable, but it's a bit wordy. So I put the making it buildable. Okay. Okay. So this kind of production, okay, this is something that has to be overcome. Okay. And then finally, you got all this worked out. Okay. The innovation part. Now, this is not sort of like this is a very big area. So I'm just giving you obviously innovation is the whole school, right? But there's a lot that gives you innovative. Let's say this. Let's say past science, it's doable. It's not a time travel gadget. It's an invention. It's a different way of doing things, possibly better. Right? You can work out the prototype. You have a way of productionizing it. Okay. The reason, and once you have this thing, right? And let's say I'm going to give an innovation score. Okay. So think of innovation in this case as assigning the adjective innovative. Okay. Now you can say, wow, this is very innovative. This is not. It's good, but it's not. Okay. So you can have transportation solution that's innovative. You can have transportation solution that's good, but not even innovative. So what makes something innovative? Okay. Well, I kind of like give away the answer, but you don't know what that answer means. Okay. There are more answers. This is it. Okay. We haven't, this is not a class in innovation per se, but these are the two things I want to highlight. One is called cross-fertilization. One is called the alchemy equation. Huh? Now, let's see what they look like. Well, let's go with cross-fertilization. This cross-fertilization, I should put something like this. The integrate in integrated. innovate. Yeah, but let's say part of that. When the School of Integrated Innovation was founded, the idea is that innovation cannot be a silo effort. Okay, it's not chemists inventing something and take a straight line, beeline to the innovation. Integrated innovation means two things. The science or the technology itself cross-fertilizes, uses different knowledge, nanotechnology with AI, health science with genetics, with data science. Okay, so basically you are combining multiple disciplines. Okay, so this cross-fertilization is the multidisciplinary. Now, obviously, integrated innovation also means something else. Like, not only is it the technology, it's also the marketing, the presentation, the capital funding, all kind of stuff, right? So it's a whole package, the whole shebang. Okay, so inventing a chemical formula is not an innovation. It takes a whole host of things. Okay, from production, all the way to marketing. Okay, but you'll be wrong to say that I come to Basai and I learn how to market technology and that's good. Okay, because believe me, that's the easy part. It's the integration part that's hard. Okay, so cross-fertilization is sort of like the multidisciplinary thing. Okay, and I'll give you a very good, very, very solid example. Okay, the primary example. The other one is called alchemy equation. The reason I call it alchemy equation is because you guys know what alchemy is? Well, it's a thing that's not doable. In the Dark Ages, in the Middle Ages, the precursor of chemists today were alchemists. What they want to do is they want to take lead, which is relatively abundant, do something with it, and turn it into gold. Valuable. Okay, so the alchemy equation is simply this: value, is equal to some kind of value multiplier. Okay? In this case, the ratio between gold price and lead price. That's the multiplier, right? So let's say in the Dark Ages, in the Middle Ages, a lump of gold is worth 3,000 times a lump of lead. Okay, so the multiplier is 3,000. Multiply by the abundance, right? Okay, multiply by the abundance. Now, this is where you watch, when you watch the videos and you're going to select the idea, you will be in awe of innovative solution precisely when you see this equation. Example, what we just watched. What is the there are many that you haven't watched it, yeah, so you might not know what we're talking about, but certainly what I'm talking about is this. The multiplier is to turn methane into feed for biological substrate, algae, bacteria that produces plastic. The abundance comes from the fact that you get free methane from municipal dump site and industrial waste. And in fact, if you put a bunch of cows in an enclosed space, you get a lot of methane, right? It's a little bit hard to trap methane from cow, if they roam. But certainly, methane coming from your biological, compost or whatever, trash, that's abundant, right? It's when you see something that they say, wow, that's cool. Okay, so it's the wowness, it's the innovative. It's innovative not because it's chemically possible, It's because, hey, it's turning something that we have abundance of, and in fact want to get rid of, because methane is several, maybe 20 times more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Right? Right? In fact, you would be better off helping the environment instead of not driving. Stop eating meat. Okay? Stop eating meat. Literally cow. Okay? Cows are the worst. Okay? They produce a lot of methane, consumes a lot of resource just to get to you 1 little pound of hamburger. Okay? So if you eat hamburger and you ride bicycle to work, or if you drive a car to work and don't eat meat, take your pick. I would imagine that, in fact, reduction in meat consumption on the whole, not just for one person, is even more substantial. For one person, it doesn't, because you don't really reduce production. But on the whole, if you stop eating meat or low, the meat production will be reduced. Right now, it's the primary cause of deforestation in the Amazon. Okay, they're cutting down the Amazon, not for timber, not for trees, not for wood, right? We used to say deforestation is to get trees. No. In the Amazon, you're losing an acre of land a second, I think. Maybe 10 acres a second. I don't know. Because they want to turn it into farmland to plant, I think, soybean, but not for human consumption, to feed to cows. Okay? So they're not just making grazing land for cows. You can say, well, cows cannot graze huge swaths of land, but certainly cows eat lots of cow feed, okay? Soybean or whatever, and that takes a lot of plantation area. Anyway, so back to what we talked about. Oh yeah, abundance of what? Abundance of methane, stuff we don't even want. We have abundance of. It's when you say, that's like a gold mine here. It's that one. That's what makes it innovative. Okay, so you can think of a sort of like competition. Two solutions. They can both have high impact on sustainability, but it's this solution that I think, wow, it's taking waste. So the most beautiful thing you can ever say to any kind of funding or competition is to say you're turning waste to good stuff. Okay, that literally is what an alchemist does, or wanted to do, but they couldn't do that. They can't turn lead into gold. But if you can turn cow or whatever methane, okay, into bioplastic, that's exactly what the alchemy equation is. Yeah. So maybe I shouldn't put multiply, I should say the conversion factor or whatever, but you understand what I mean. Now, cross-fertilization, this is fun stuff. I'll give you one example. And again, it's a little bit like, remember last time we were talking about not last time, 2 classes ago, we talked about bad consequences of CDO. It takes a little bit of background information to tell the story. So let me tell you that story. Okay, let me tell you that story. Okay, and this will sporadically do a little Google. Let's Google Brown. That's not good. Brownian, Brown, the botanist. There we go. Okay, let's look at this guy, Brown. Okay, this guy is Robert Brown, the botanist. Yeah, he was born in 1773. Okay. So what the botanist, you guys know? Study plants and stuff like that. Well, anyway, it takes I don't know, literally he did this, but something like this. It has a glass of water, right? Take some pollen, drops it in. Yeah. He doesn't heat it up, doesn't stir it. Okay. But the pollen doesn't sit there. The pollen jiggles. move randomly. Okay, so two things. Number one, it doesn't sit there. The pollens, they don't sit there. Number two, their movement is random. Okay, so let's start with the story here. Brownian motion. And that story. Okay. So this is Brownian motion. So it's A, pollen or particulate suspended in liquid water. Done. Stay still. Okay. Their movement here random. Okay. So this is not, so you're not stirring it. If you're stirring it, goes in a circle, right? And you're not heating it up. There's no bubbling. You're not putting any energy. Okay. And this is the first statement doesn't sound like a big deal to you, but it's a big deal to scientists, because if you're not adding energy, where is it getting its motion? Okay. Anyway, so let's go to Robert Brown. Robert. So the first guy is Robert Brown. Okay. So Brownian motion. So who next? Who next do you want to look at? The next character comes in is Albert Einstein. Okay. Well, let's see if you know who that is. Albert Einstein, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. He's famous for a lot of things. He's famous for a lot of things. But I'm looking for one thing. Okay. This thing. He explained Brownian motion. Where is it? Oh, okay. Wow. By the way, let's look at Brownian motion. That's a lot of fun. Okay. Well, actually, it turns out the reason, okay, this little guy, this little red guy is the pollen. Okay. He's moving randomly. Well, the reason he's moving randomly is because even though you're not adding heat, there's already some latent energy in there, in the water. And basically it's being kicked around by water molecules. You can't see the water. That's why it's like invisible force, like a ghost movie, right? Being pushed by a ghost. You see a child being tossed around, but you don't see the ghost. Well, it's a bit like that. Anyway, the interesting thing is Einstein, where's Einstein? I'm trying to find the reference. Number 5, is that it? On the random walk of Brownian motion. No, there's actually actually an Einstein paper. Right? Let's search. Let's be a little bit more on it. Einstein paper on not general relativity, but on Brownian motion. Investigation on the theory of the Brownian movement. There you go. So let's see what this paper looks like. And this was published in 1905. It's known as the miracle years because in that year, well, some of his more famous thing was also done in the 1905. But it's this thing that I'm talking about. He did this. Okay. And I want to take you to this equation. Where is the equation? It's a bit here. It's hidden somewhere. But anyway, it's easier to do this. Let's do this. Let's go to this Brownian motion again. I think Wikipedia is probably presenting in an easier way to read. And it's right here. There it is. Okay. You guys see this? Have you seen this before? It's called normal distribution. You've seen this in high school. Okay. Well, normal distribution gives you uncertainty around the bit in the middle, right? So it's, first of all, it's symmetric. It's symmetric. Unimodal, meaning the highest likelihood is concentrated in one area, and that's where you are. So this is the Brownian motion. Is characterized with this normal curve. In other words, if you look at the Brownian motion, okay, in one dimension, okay, and this is in two dimensions. So that's like two-dimensional normal distribution. But in one dimension, you can see that it's sort of like if you close your eyes, all right, and you open your eyes again, okay, the pollen is here. You close your eyes, you open your eyes again, it's likely to be around there. It's randomly distributed with a normal curve, right? But it's still likely to be where it was because it doesn't jump, right? It's not a ghost, right? It's a particle. So if you close your eyes, you open your eyes in millisecond, chances are it's somewhere around there. Well, that probability of location has this bell curve. Okay. Well, the Brownian motion is more interesting than that. It's saying, you know, the Brownian motion, the normal distribution has a standard deviation, right? Well, square of that standard deviation is called variance. Yeah. What Einstein characterization ended up ultimately, we know today as Brownian motion, is that if you close your eyes for 1 second, the distribution has this certain amount of variance, the distribution of location. If you close your eyes for 2 seconds, the distribution has twice the variance. Okay, so where you still expect it to be sort of like where it was, right? But the range that you have to look for is a little bit wider. How much wider? Proportional invariance, not in standard deviation, invariance. Okay, so oh, that's interesting. So Einstein, you know, in his famous year 1905, wrote paper on special relativity, right? I think there's actually a page here called Miracle Year. Einstein Miracle Year. I think let's see this one. So he has three things, and Brownian motion, photoelectric effect, and special relativity, and mass energy equivalence in 1 year. That's a crazy year. By the way, do you know that Einstein won the Nobel Prize? Not for special relativity, he won it for this one, for the electric effect. Okay, because special relativity was a little bit hard to prove, I think. And general relativity was also proved, but not right away, much later. Anyway, so he won Nobel Prize for the electric effect, which is very important for quantum mechanics. Anyway, so that's this thing. So Einstein. Okay, let me put this this page. I think I like this page better. So let's put this page in our note. Einstein. Okay. Well, in the end, so now we know. So now we know. Fast forward. Let's fast forward many years. Let's this guy. here. Good. I just kind of lost momentum. The first characterization of stock market with Brownian motion. More than 60 years ago, in 1990, a French. So this happened before, and I don't want to get his name wrong. Bachelier. So let's do this. Louis Bachelier. Okay. Oops. Louis Bachelier. Let's see if he has a wiki page. Let's see if he has a wiki page. Wiki. He does. He does. He does. He does. He does. He does have a wiki page. So that's good. Okay. Basically, he looks at stock market price, stock price. That's a stock price, not market price. Random, like pollen. I'm just making a very baby statement here. Okay, stock price, randoms like pollen. Okay, let's. Look random, like pollen, i.e. Brownian motion. Okay, so okay, now we got three areas that are already cross-fertilized. Anybody? Biology, botanist. Okay, so botanist. Okay, this guy, let's say, I think he's mathematician at heart. What do we call? Yeah, mathematician. But his thing here, his observation here is not about mathematical objects, it's about financial objects, right? So I'm gonna put a little bit. Well, I'm just mathematician and then physicist. Okay. So we got physics, botany, mathematics, in particular financial mathematics. Okay. Back then there was no such thing as financial mathematics, but today what he did would be called financial mathematics. Okay, or mathematical finance. Okay? So I'll put over here. Finance. Financial finance. Yeah. Well, you know it's finance. Fine. So we have three things together, right? That's pretty good. Okay. Now we have okay. Now I'm gonna put three guys over here. Let's say a mathematician, or well, I'm just not gonna Merton, Lab, and Show. Three guys, all right? Now, again, this is very hard. Now, basically, and this is very important. You guys know calculus, right? dy, dx, and all that. Okay. I'm gonna write, well, it's not a nice way to write here, but ds, change in stock price. Okay, dt, right? You have, yeah, it's change in stock price. Okay. Well, in notation, sometimes let's say you have ds dt is equal to something. Okay. So star, let's call it. Okay, it's equal to this. Okay. Now, normally when you see this, sometimes you see people write something like this: ds is equal to this thing dt. Okay, as if you can separate ds dt into a ratio. Well, this is actually a shorthand for integral over ds on the left hand side. Okay, just so you know. Okay, it's technically you can't separate ds dt, but this is what it means. Okay. Okay. So when you see this, okay, this is what it means. Okay, now what happened is the Black-Scholes model says this: ds, change in stock price, over s is equal to some mean mu, okay, dt plus sigma dwt, where dwt is as normal, mean zero variance dt. Okay. Remember, I told you guys about Brownian motion. Brownian motion means if you close your eyes for 1 second, that's your t. You get this amount of variance. If you close your eyes for 2 seconds, you get twice the variance. All I'm saying is that the variance of the randomness is proportional to t, right? What Einstein allows Black, Merton, and Scholes to do was not to have just 1 second, 2 seconds, but to have dt's worth of seconds. So infinitesimally small. Okay, that's called differential time. Okay, so instead of having 1 second's worth of variance, 2 seconds worth of variance, the stock price has dt's worth of variance if you close your eyes for dt seconds in a stock market. Now, obviously, this is an approximation because stock market don't move in dt, right? It moves in literal second. But that's what this is. This is what this is. Okay. So one, this is what the Black-Scholes. Okay, notation. And this is about notation. Okay. This is assumption. Okay. Assumption. Actually, you know, it's much easier to write, nicer to write this in Mathematica, or but you know, we'll keep this here. It's fine. Okay. So what happened is this thing is called, by the way, it's called stochastic differential. Okay. dt is the differential. Stochastic means random. Okay. Look at that later. So that's the assumption. Okay, that's the assumption. Now let's go to financial market. Financial contract. Okay, here's a financial contract. By the way, 5 years ago, this would be like a taught in finance engineering class. Okay. Maybe on the other side of the campus. Financial contracts. Okay. If I have S, okay, stock price at time 0, and then you have stock price at time t, and then you have stock price at time big T. Okay, T is like big T in the future. Okay, so something like now, later, 3 months, in 3 months. Okay, do that. Okay, there's a financial contract that's called option. call option CT. Okay, call option CT. Again, it's going to be the same thing. Okay. It's a derivative contract because it doesn't, I'll show you. Okay. There's a C now, C later, and C in 3 months' time, except C in 3 months' time is equal to ST and some maximum of minus K, okay, and 0. Now, what does this mean? It means that in 3 months' time, if the stock price is higher than K, you get the difference. If the stock price is lower than K, worthless. Okay, you see that? That's the maximum, right? Maximum between two things. Okay, so in other words, i.e., if CT is greater than K, oh, ST, sorry. If ST is greater than K, CT is equal to ST minus K. On the other hand, if ST not less than or equal to K, CT is equal to 0. Anybody knows what this means? It's the CT is a promise to sell ST in 3 months' time at price K. Yeah, think of it this way. You want to buy durian, okay? But durian varies in price. But you know that your mom in 3 months' time, it's her birthday, you're gonna buy her expensive durian, right? But you only make budget for 2,000 baht. That's already a lot of money for students. Okay? If it's more than 2,000 baht, you can't afford it. So you go to a durian seller and say, can you promise to sell me durian 2,000 baht in 3 months' time? Okay? If that seller is nice, you say yes, but obviously he's not nice. He's just a seller, right? He doesn't even know you. So he's gonna say, okay, fine. I'll sell you the right for 5 baht. Okay? Which means that this is the 5 baht. The promise right now is 5 baht. If in 3 months' time, durian is worth more than 2,000. Wow, great, right? Because you can buy for 2,000. So it's like you saving. So if it's 3,000 baht, you're saving 1,000 baht. Okay. So you know, let's say you pretended to love your mom, but you don't really love her. So on that day, you know, the durian is worth 3,000 baht. You're thinking, wait a minute, I can buy durian for 2,000 baht. Why don't I just buy durian for 2,000 baht and sell it for 3,000 baht and get 1,000 baht and go and you know, buy something else, and I'll just get my mom a nice car. Okay, so basically you don't even have to buy durian, right? So essentially that's what this is. It's the right, C is the call option. Okay, CT is the right to buy S at time T at price K. The question is, dun, dun, dun. The question is, do you know what S is now? Yes. Do you know what it is later? No, you don't. You don't, do you know what it is in 3 months time? No, you don't. What do you know? You know that this is a promise. My question is, so the only question that you need to know, because right now you only at time 0, right? So the only thing you don't know right now that you need to know is, what is C? Okay, that's what you want to know. Okay, and this is the emergence of that technology that we're going to talk about. The question is, what is C? If you have formula C0 is equal to formula some function of S0 and a few bits and bobs. Okay, if you have a formula, here's the deal. You get a Nobel Prize. Okay, not only that, you make a lot of money. Okay, so long story short, that is the emerging the technology that came out, and it transformed the entire financial industry. Okay, this thing used to be priced sort of like, you want to buy your mom durian for 2,000 baht. I'll give you this rice for about 5 baht. That's it. Okay, and somebody else asked, well, maybe 5 baht was too low. I'll give about 10 baht. It turns out that there is a precise formula. Okay, because when it was a guesswork, it was just a matter of guesswork, right? So it's market for durian and market for that little certificate of promise. But now, if you have that formula, this secondary market becomes huge because it's something more reliable. Okay, so if you have this formula, you get a Nobel Prize in economics, not in peace. It didn't build peace, it just built money, make money. Okay, so that's the idea. That's what Black-Scholes is. Black-Scholes Prize, the reason it's called Black-Scholes and only Black-Scholes won Nobel Peace Prize was because Merton passed away. Okay, you can't give Nobel Prize to people who passed away. Okay, how did he do that? How did he do that? Well, let's go back to Einstein. Yeah, now we got Robert Brown, presumably English, French, German Jews, right? I think he became naturalized American. These guys, I think, are Americans. And let's go Japanese this time. Let's find Japanese guy. Let's see if he has a page. Come on, let's have a name. Ito. Where's this guy? Where's the guy? Ito calculus. This guy. Kiyoshi Ito. Let's go to this guy. Japanese mathematician Ito. Kiyoshi. Okay, Kiyoshi Ito. Okay. Well, it's very interesting. You guys know what a chain rule is? Okay. So think of a chain rule. Okay. So dy dt is equal to dy dx dx dt, something like that, right? Well, so this thing here, okay, I don't know how Einstein notation is, but it's something about dt dx equal to blah 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 dwt. Okay. Now, by the way, Einstein didn't do it alone. He kind of did the mathematics, but the real mathematics was another guy named W. I put them together. Mathematician Norbert Wiener, who is one of my heroes that you guys don't know about because he's the first cyberneticist. Let's see. Norbert Wiener. That's why it's W for him. Yeah. Anyway, something like this. Okay. Whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Now, what this Ito did was Ito's lemma. Lemma is like a chain rule for, and this is ordinary differential, right? For stochastic differential. Okay. So, in other words, okay, you will notice, and this is subtle, but you haven't picked this up, I think. When I use the big letter, I indicate that there's a randomness. When I use a small letter, there's no randomness. Okay, this is a subtle notation. But anyway, here's the deal. The idea is, so, in other words, he wants to make a chain rule for the WT or DS, DW, and all that. Okay. So that's the thing. That's the thing. Yeah. In fact, I don't have to write it. Okay. Like DS and DW. Now we have all the ingredients. This is DS. In other words, to do this, you need what? You need DC, right? It's equal to involve some math involving Ito's lemma, lemma dt. Okay, basically that's what it comes down to this, and then you take the integral of something dc and get c of 0. Okay, it turns out, by the way, that this equation, once you stick in the Ito bit, is a very simple equation. In fact, this one becomes what's called heat equation. You know what a heat equation is? It's the dissipation of heat. Let's say I have a bar of hot stuff. Right? Let's say it's infinitely long. Okay, it's very hot. Okay, is it going to change the temperature? It's in vacuum. So the only way it can change temperature is because it can send heat sideways. Okay, so it's very hot. Is it going to change temperature? No. How are you going to pass on heat? Because you're already hot. Everybody is hot. To the right of you is hot. To the left of you is hot. How are you going to dissipate heat? You can't, right? Well, if you're not hot, if you're cold and your friend is cold, same thing. You don't get heat from your friend. Everybody is cold. So the change in heat, difference in heat, proportional not to time, but proportional to how different you are from your friend's heat. So change in heat, let's say I'm gonna write something terrible, okay? It's proportional to the heat in location. So your change in heat in time dissipate if your friend is cooler than you. Okay, that's called heat equation. Okay, it's proportional to the second derivative. And in fact, it looks like this. In heat equation, or sometimes it's called diffusion, which turns out to be a very simple partial differential equation. So Nobel Prize was awarded for somebody who solved a very simple differential equation. This, you have a friend, right? In engineering school. This is their year 1 mathematics. That's it. Well, it looks complicated, but in one dimension, what it means is that the change of heat in time is proportional to, and that looks a little bit complicated. And let's see if there's a simpler one-dimensional heat equation. This has to look simple. 1D heat equation. Come on. That's it. It's this one. It's as simple as it gets. Okay, except I can't write in the note form. That's what this is. Oh, sorry. It's this thing I want to blow up. Okay, U is the heat. This is our partial. Okay, I can't write partial script in the note. Okay? Change of heat in time is proportional to the second derivative of heat in location, because that gives you the difference between you and your neighbor. Okay, if you and your neighbor, one is hot, one is cold, you transfer heat. If everybody's hot, you don't get to transfer heat. It turns out that this equation looks exactly like this equation has been solved for a gazillion years, let's say. Well, not 100 years. So this is what I mean. Are you saying that? Am I saying that? Yes, I am. Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded for a first-year mathematical partial differential equation. Yes. But why was it awarded? Because it was the cross-fertilization. It was not the math. The math is done by your, in fact, some of you in high school probably did this in advanced calculus. Okay, but anyway, if you have a friend in engineering school, definitely in their year 1 or at the very latest year 2, they will have solved this parabolic. I think it's called parabolic equation. One-dimensional is parabolic or elliptic? Parabolic. Parabolic PDE. Yeah, this is called parabolic equation. It's easy. Second order differential equation, I think, has 3 major class: elliptic, parabolic, and something else, and I forgot. Parabolic is the easiest one. So not only is it second order differential equation, which is relatively simple, and it's doable by okay, which is simple. It's also the simplest version of second order. Okay, so that's that. So the reason these two guys got Nobel Prize was because this guy passed away, and the reason he got it was not because the mathematics were hard, but because he was able to do a few things. He was able to say this thing, as with Louis Bachelier, It's a good way of modeling stock price. Financial market requires change of C with respect to S. S changes with respect to T. So if you want to study C, you have to have a chain rule. But you need a chain rule DC, DS, DS, DT. But you can't do ordinary chain rule. So you have to go to find a Japanese guy who did something during World War II or after World War II, and then take his formula, come back, stick it in, clean it up. Once he cleaned it up, probably had his son solve it. Okay. So this is what I mean by the story. So I'll call this story of cross-fertilization. Okay. This is my favorite. My favorite. Okay. Okay. So that's that. So that is today right here, cross-fertilization. This is a story of Brownian motion, option pricing, let's say, and Black-Scholes. Huh? Option pricing. Yeah, and this has given rise to gazillion-dollar industry. It allows you to, well, it allows you to do this, to leverage your control, right? You control, in 5 baht, you can control your risk of durian worth of 3,000 baht. It's a bit of a leverage. If you use it wisely, you use it to protect yourself from risk. If you use it poorly, unwisely, it's a little bit like housewife in Iceland that I told you about, selling the insurance, because after all, that 5 baht is an insurance against price rise in durian above 2,000. So if you want to make easy money and you sell this certificate, you say, wow, great, I got 5 baht today for free. In 3 months' time, durian price goes up to 3,000 baht. Now you are 1,000 baht out of the pocket. So it becomes a risk. So it kind of leverages the risk, right? So you can make the leverage the control of risk. So if you use it to protect yourself from risk, good. If you use it to take risk, well, you're just playing a dangerous game. And that's what happened. Now, the example of bad consequence I was telling you about, the housewife in Iceland supposedly, buying CDO of CDS based on house price mortgage in Southern California. That came much later. Okay, so the first generation of financial derivative was this. Okay, so CDO, CDS, these are like second, third generation of financial derivative. So I was telling you a story that came much later than the story I'm telling you today. This story, I think, happens in around 1976, I think. Let's see, Black-Scholes. The Black-Scholes model, okay, is 72 or 76. Hold on. Basically, this is a paper that won him the Nobel Prize. 1973, no, there's one before that, I think. 76. Yeah, I think it's 73, sorry, 73. So Myron. Yeah, 73. 19. Oh, that's Black Demon Toy. Okay, sorry.ครับผม If the price goes down, it's worthless. It's insurance against price rise. You can have insurance against price fall as well. It's called put option. Yeah. So put option is the opposite of this. Now, why would you want to put option? Well, because you want to sell this thing. Now, call option is like you want to buy something, you're afraid the price will go up. Put option is like you have something, you might want to sell it in 3 months' time. You're afraid that by that time, you know, the price has gone down. So you want the right to sell at a certain price. Okay, so in that case, the maximum is the difference between the price below. Yeah, so you flip this sign right here. Something like here. Yeah, so instead of this, you flip the sign, something like that. Yeah, and then you flip, this is minus, and this is plus. Yeah, and that will become the flip. And there are many other versions. Okay, so that's called put option is derived almost very simply, almost trivially from call. So the first thing is a call. You have call price, you have put price. So it's by relationship. Anyway, but that is the breakthrough. So think about it. Think of the story of this. This is a story, you know, hundreds of years in the making. You have bits of pollen that move randomly. God knows how. Physicists then put a statistical mechanic way of explaining, well, it's getting kicked about by water molecule, right? Okay, makes sense. Mathematician comes around and say, well, if we can describe this kicking around, then the variability in the movement would be proportional to time, right? Because the more time you have, the more opportunity you have to get kicked around, right? By water molecule, right? So Wiener has differential equation with stochastic. By the way, this is called stochastic differential equation. Stochastic differential equation. Yeah? Yeah? SDE as opposed to PDE. All right? Mathematician in Japan just figure out a chain rule for something that has both dynamic calculus and randomness, Brownian. Brilliant. Let's put in two things because there's only two things in life that moves you, right? Moves that are deterministic, therefore calculus. Moves that are random, therefore probability. Well, if you have the random and deterministic, you got all the movement in the world. That's it. So here, this guy, Wiener here, father of cybernetics. Huh? Whereas Einstein is, well, you know who Einstein is. Yeah, so he needs no introduction. Of the sun, just put, well, it's not just him, but a whole bunch of guys as well. You know, put deterministic movement as captured by differential equation and randomness as captured by, you know, Brownian motion. Together, right? And this again allows Ito, Kiyoshi, S-I near. Kiyoshi, right? It's not she, it's not C, right? There's no Kiyoshi. Kiyoshi Ito has the chain rule for stochastic differential. Sat around 20 years later. Some guys say, oh, wait a minute, stock market, just like Louis Bachelier said, looks like stochastic differential equation. Call option is dependent on stock price. So if you want a price call, you have to do chain rule. Well, who's done chain rule in stochastic differential equation? Ito. Put them together, clean up the equation, solve it, get a Nobel Prize. So it's a very cool story, by the way. It's an excellent, it's a very cool story. Okay. And so that's that. Hold on. So tell you what instead of going to the third, which is the visualization and prototyping, I think maybe we just stop the video and go around the room a little bit. Have you guys, you know, chat up about the ideas like we talked about last time, what you want to do? Okay, maybe we can do that because in 40 minutes we can't. But what I want you to do as a homework is to do this. To get started, to go to demonstration.wolfram. So this is your homework there. Okay. Now, this is so I'm not going to start on Mathematica today, I don't think. Okay, but here, what does it do? What does it do? Well, obviously, this is basically interactive visualization of computation. It's interactive because you can play around with parameters. It's a visualization because it's not just giving you numbers. Well, it certainly gives you number, but a lot of time will be picture and graph and whatnot. Of what? Of not just a pretty picture, but a computation result. And that computation can be anything. Now, this is where I want you to go crazy on the. You guys will have different interests. Okay. Now, we're going to do the same thing as with the video example where you will take a dip on something. Okay. So let's say I am interested in life science. Okay. And there's a lot of things in life science. So don't go in the kids and fun section, and I think I shouldn't do that. Go to life science section, and what you're interested in, let's say you're interested in medicine. Okay. Go to medicine. And there's 155 projects available. Okay, this one is the first one. Now, if you don't have the software, say next year you have to turn in your software, you can download the player just to play with it, but you can't edit, you can't do anything. But you have the software, Mathematica, so you can download all this. You can download the source code, you can download this, and you can play it. Okay, and it's allowing you to do all kind of interaction. Okay, so this happened to be pH buffering in human blood. I don't know what that is. No idea what that is. Okay. This happens to be gradient echo pulse sequence. It's annoying. I already have this. I have to say this. Okay. So it actually has a brain scan, right? And then you can do, well, what is called gradient echo pulse sequence for magnetic resonance. I don't know what that is. Okay. So once again, you can do that. Yeah. This one I wrote actually. That's fun. There it is. This was a long time ago when I was working for the Bank of Thailand. Remember I told you guys about risk management, that there are many ways of managing risk in the Western tradition. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. That's called avoidance, right? Well, this is kind of like buffering. You can take the risk as long as you have capital to cushion the loss. Well, this is a capital formula that the Bank of Thailand requires all commercial banks in Thailand to have minimum capital to buffer or cushion for the risk when they make loans. Okay, when they make loans, they have credit risk. That credit risk they can take, they have to take, right? That's their job, right? But they can't take, they can take too little. They would just will not make any money, right? They make money from paying your interest, maybe 2%, and charging 8% for somebody borrowing. That's how they make money. Okay. Well, so they want to make a lot of this. Every time they make this, they incur risk. This is a formula that calculates how much minimum capital you need if you have this much risk. So it quantifies the amount of risk, and it says what is the minimum capital you need to cushion for it, using principle from probability theory and so forth. So this is the one this was written when I was back in the Bank of Thailand. So this must have been 2011. Wow, 11 years. Okay. So you can play with this. And this is basically the Basel II capital adequacy. It's called Basel II because Bank of Thailand is using international standard. this international standard for banking supervision usually set by this organization, sort of like central banks for central bank, or BIS, Bank for International Settlement, and they happen to be located, well, they don't happen. They are located in Basel, Switzerland. So that's why it's called Basel formula. Yeah, it's called Basel. Yeah, the reason it's called Basel because the town's called Basel. That's why BIS is. BIS comes up with this rule and say, okay, fellow central bankers, let's use this for covering your regulating your commercial bank. Okay, so this is called internal rating based IRB approach. So this is a formula in there. Okay, so that happened to be in finance. So a lot of you, most of you, probably not interested in finance problem. So again, this is what? This is biology, is it? So cognitive science. This is social, engineering, technology, all kinds of stuff. Computation, data science is going to be in here. Algorithm, whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Once again, we'll follow the same kind of protocol. You pick one you like, and you say, I got a dip on this one. You go look somewhere else. But you know there are hundreds. Okay. So I think today let's sign off the video section. Okay, you have the materials needed. Again, the syllabus itself has all the link of the videos channel. Okay, so with that, now, so next class, I want to, yeah, let's make it at least an assignment to select which demonstration applet you want to study. Okay, and you can play with it actually. Okay, but you don't have to do much with it yet. Just stake a claim. I want to study this one. Okay, but produce the IPSI mind map. Yeah, you have the mind map program, right? So everybody should do three things. Okay, number one, stake a claim on the videos. Number two, produce a mind map representing the IPSI, right? Except you have to flesh out the detail, especially the I part, what you want to do with it. Third thing is you have to stake a claim on mathematical demonstration apps that you want to study in detail. Okay. Right. So with that, let's turn off the recording and we can go around the room, or we can just keep the video running. I don't know. We'll just turn off the video for now. We'll turn on another one.